approved, and then later it was delayed, as stated in the staff report. Mr. Mason. Caleb Mason is here at the podium. Looks like he's raring to go. I don't have anything else to say. I provided the outline of the previous decision-making in this matter and attached what I feel were the relevant documents. So my recommendation would be to hear from Mr. Mason and any others from the association who wish to address this, and then make your decision.
Mr. Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Kendrick. My name is Caleb Mason. I've met some of you before. It's a pleasure to address all of you. It is my honor to represent the 29 sworn personnel of the fire department and the union. We are here tonight on what probably seems like a small matter in the grand scheme of things. We have one guy who lost a day of vacation. But we are here because this is a matter of principle, and we believe, fortunately, that this particular lost vacation day was part of an ongoing and fairly troubling campaign of retaliation by the fire chief against the fire union and its members, and I think the entire council is probably familiar with that. We have ongoing litigation on this topic that has taken up a lot of our time over the past year or so, and I won't get into too much detail on that, except to point out a couple things the council may not be fully aware of. The reason Tim had to lose the day of vacation that he had signed up for pursuant to department policies and that had been approved by the department pursuant to department policies and the memorandum of understanding. The reason was that he was ordered to come back and attend a call review. The date was April 24th, 2018. A call review is an event in which people who have been part of a particular incident sit around and talk about the incident and discuss it with, in this case, a medical representative, Dr. Henderson, who talked about the potential response options and what they could have done differently, what they did well, and so forth. This was for an accident, a traffic accident that had occurred more than a year previously. Nobody that I have talked to in the fire service can ever recall having a call with you of an incident that occurred more than a year previously. Moreover, the medical specialist didn't understand why there was a call review for this particular incident. There was an outside investigation that the fire chief began into this incident, and it resulted in finding that the personnel in question, and relatively here, Tim, did not do anything wrong, did not violate any policies or procedures of the department. So why did he have to lose his vacation day? The other problem is that Tim pointed this out to the fire chief beforehand and said, I don't think that you should cancel my vacation that has been approved. The fire chief sat on that grievance until the night before Tim had to show up, so when he finally told him, no, be here at 8:30 tomorrow, Tim had no opportunity to appeal. We then appealed again to the city manager, and we were told no. So all we have here is a guy looking for a vacation day back that was taken away from him. And what I'm asking you, the city council, to do here, in this rather unusual procedure in which the city council is sitting as essentially an appellate body in employment agreements. And I'm delighted, frankly, that you agreed to do that. We normally request an outside arbitrator or mediator for these things, and I think it's wonderful that the city council agreed to hear it. All we're asking the city to do is, in this case, which is really the right thing, is to recognize this should not have happened to my client. He should have gotten his vacation day back. What was he going to do with that day? He wasn't sitting on the beach having a margarita. He had signed up for a class in helicopter rescue training. He was training to be a crewman on a helicopter that could go out and perform emergency services in wildland areas. The chief knew that. He wasn't the only one who signed up for this class that day. We believe that this is another instance, unfortunately, in which the dispute between the union and the fire chief started with the fire union's support of certain candidates during the 2017 election and its vote of no confidence against Chief Jankowski has turned into a rather bitter and vindictive campaign by the fire chief against the members of his department. All of them now. All of them. From the firefighter, paramedics, all the way up to the battalion chiefs. The chief appears to believe that they're all somehow conspiring to get him, run him out of town. He's lost the confidence of his department. This is one small incident in that broader campaign. Luckily, thanks to Mr. Russiak for giving me the opportunity to bring it to you. We're asking for that one thing, give Tim his day of vacation back. Tim has a prepared statement that he would like to read, a very short one, and I'm here if anybody has any questions for me, be happy to address them.
I just want to clarify, it's not a day's vacation, it was a 1 hour vacation.
The actual time in question was 2 hours, that's correct. However, keep in mind, that this was the middle day of a 3-day block of time that you've taken off for vacation. So I would submit to you, if you take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off from work, and then you're told by your boss, you better be here at 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, kind of kills the whole vacation. So, it is up to you how you wish to recompense Mr. Marino. If you want to give him the 2 hours, that's fine. If you want to give him a whole day, that's fine. If you want to reimburse him for the cost of the helicopter training course, that is fine. All I would like is for the city council to do the right thing and acknowledge we're treating this young man badly, and we want to make it up to him. We should not have done what we did, we're gonna make it right.
Was actual loss of money by fire personnel that lost the training?
Tim, you can answer that, whether you were reimbursed.
I spent $500 for the class.
And you lost that money?
I was able to finish the class, so I did get my certificate.
Go ahead.
That's not the point.
For the 2 hours, I thought it was 1, but the 2 hours, you were on payroll during the call review, correct?
Not the point.
Correct, because I got forced in.
All right. But you're not,
It's not the point.
you weren't forced into a meeting and then not paid.
Yes, and I think that's a good question, Mr. Kress, and I think the importance of that for the council is this. As the council knows, one of the most serious issues in the ongoing litigation with the city is that for 2 straight fire seasons, the fire chief has refused to allow my clients to go out to assist in wildland responses in a fully crewed engine. He has done this despite repeated requests from the fire personnel themselves. from me as
That's
a
beyond the
representative.
scope of this issue right here, right? So I'd like to hear the gentleman's
Whoa.
comments. I'd like to hear the, because, and granted, we kinda got off track, but you were teeing up the fact that firefighter, was gonna make his comments, so I'd like to hear.
Marino.
And I appreciate that, and let me explain to you the relevance, because it's actually not off the track at all. As you may know, the fire chief has repeatedly told us and told you that he is unable to send crews to assist in wildland deployments, because, as he said, he's unable to force hire people, he is unable to cancel their vacations. What he did with Tim proves that when he wants to, he can and does cancel vacations and force hire people. My question for the council is, why did the chief refuse to allow people to go out on wildland fire deployments, even if that would have required canceling somebody's vacation and force hiring them, when he's perfectly willing to force hire to make him come to a call review for a year-old incident? And with that, Tim, if you have anything you'd like to ask.
I prepared a speech. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Tim Marino, and I'm a firefighter paramedic for the city of Laverne, as well as the Vice President of the Laverne Firefighters Association. I've been a firefighter here for the city for 6 years. I'm here before you to discuss my grievance against Fire Chief Jankowski. It may seem like a small thing to you, but he canceled my previously approved vacation, and that's wrong. He's not supposed to do that except for emergencies requiring force hires. I filed a grievance against Chief Jankowski for canceling my approved vacation time. He first spoke to my battalion chief, Mark Ryan, about this issue prior to the call review. It was important to me that I be able to take this day off because I registered for the training in helicopter operations. I was using this time to better myself and the department. Chief Ryan agreed that my vacation was canceled, and he apologized to me that the city put me in this position. He spoke with the fire chief on my behalf to correct the issue, and the fire chief told him that he could cancel my vacation for mandatory training. As vice president of the Laverne Firefighter Association, I can tell you that is not correct. We have no department policy that allows the fire chief to cancel an approved vacation other than emergency recall. If there was a major catastrophe, school shootings, wildland fires, those are some examples. My initial grievance was given to Bob Russey, who then allowed the fire chief to answer it himself, even though it was corrected against him. Chief Jankowski responded back to me after having it for 6 days. He sent his denial to my grievance the night before I was to attend this call review, leaving me with no chance to appeal his decision. Chief Jankowski claimed that, quote, Battalion Chief Thompson advised Mr. Marino, me, that his vacation request for April 24th was still approved, but only after he attended the mandatory EMS call review. End of quote. This statement does not make sense. Ordering me to come into the station for a call review on a pre-approved vacation day is in fact canceling my vacation. We then appealed Chief Jankowski's decision and again sent it to Bob Russey. Mr. Russey denied our appeal. He referred to my vacation as a vacation request. This was not a vacation request. My vacation had already been approved, and I was already registered for this class to be a helicopter crewman. I feel that this is another example of retaliation against association members. I do not feel that this process has been fair, and I'm just asking for the return of the vacation time I lost.
Okay, now you were given back, I'm going off the information we are given, okay? So anything I'm wrong on, please correct me. It says in here that you were given back the day of vacation, back on your time, plus you were paid for the day. Is that correct? The time, the 2 hours went back on to your vacation pool that you have.
Correct, I didn't have to use them. because I was on
Right, you didn't have to use it, so basically you were paid for them because you got paid for the day for those 2 hours plus the vacation went back into your pool, correct?
Correct, but my grievance is about being paid. It's the fact that I had to come in
Yep.
and he used a non-existing policy to force me out.
Oh, I understand that, but what I'm saying is I just wanna correct that one item, that you're asking just to be compensated for the time that you got, which you were. Your time went back on and you got paid for the 2 hours.
You ruined his
Just
day.
Start there, is that correct?
I did not lose any vacation time.
Right,
I
okay.
lost the ability that I had to accrue vacation and I had to come in.
The ability that, yeah, okay. So, I was
There's no
in,
monetary agreements.
your statement that you just made a few minutes ago, where is that policy? Is it a separate policy? I have your MOU that the firefighters have with the city. I've read that. Now,
It's
what
under
you
our
just did, what's that?
emergency recall.
Emergency recall?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a long document that is
I
just
can
for
provide it
your
to you after
department?
this if you would like.
I would like that, yes, thank you. If you could get all of us a copy, I'd like that. But because, let me just tell you what, I was looking into. I read this, thoroughly because I wanna understand, so please correct me if I'm wrong here. I have down, as you can see, I've taken lots of notes, so. Under the MOU, item number 3, it states that the right of management is to establish, modify, or change work schedules depending on, the call for one. Like if there's a need for time to fill. Now, I also want to clear a little bit of this, is that it wasn't just to call you back in, and it wasn't the chief, because according to my notes here, is it was actually the county's doctor, let's see, what's her name here? I have her right here. Bear with me here. What is her name? Yes, okay, yes, and she, yes, Dr. Gaucher Hill, she's from the county, she's the one that requested this meeting to have a call-in with all the firemen that were on the case during the accident, correct so far? Okay, and so she was calling then the doctor that represents our fire department and asking him to coordinate a meeting, find a date, and so the meeting that was set up with Horan, that he, said that the one day, the 24th, that all the firemen that were involved in the accident, that they would be working, so it'd be a good day to have the call-in. And it was gonna just be in the morning and no more than 90 minutes initially, it was stated. And so then, after that, he did grant you vacation, and I agree, that's an error that he did that. And then he came back a week later realizing that he had booked this meeting back in February. So we all can agree it was an error on his part, he apologized, and he even said he would write a letter to the training officer over at Brackett Field and, explain to him that you'll just be a little late, you have to do this call, because all of you involved in the accident needed to be on this call.
Can I clarify one thing
Sure,
real quick?
please do.
This call review
Mhm.
had already been rescheduled one time due to vacation request. So theirs were not canceled.
Okay, do you happen to know
That was in,
the initial date that it was
the 18th,
the 18th of April?
correct.
Okay.
And I did speak to Dr. Henderson, who agreed that nobody's vacation should be canceled for this call review. He stated it was not a big deal and that he could come on multiple days.
Okay, I don't have any documentation on that, but okay.
Oh, yeah, why would you?
So I just wanted to clarify all that. Now, from what I know from where I work, where in the private sector, that the employer has the right to designate, and when it's appropriate for the company, because the company is what's most important, is if, they can deny or approve vacations. So I don't know if it's different, I'd like to see the documents you have, but in our MOU, it sounds like it's the same.
You're correct with they can edit and modify our schedule, which they do every 2 to 3 years. They can change our shifts, put us on new shifts. We just had different shift changes. But the issue at hand is having an approved vacation does not fall under that. It then falls under our recall procedures, which does not state that during a mandatory training, which the fire chief is claiming, he has the ability to recall me. So that's the issue at hand. This isn't editing or modifying my work schedule. It moved on from that point, to clarify.
So my last question for you right now is, what is it you want from us?
Honestly, I just want you to I just want a fair process. I want you to hold the fire chief accountable for using a policy that does not exist. I got punished when I followed our policies to get my vacation time approved. I mean, Mr. Hepburn, I know you own a business. If you schedule a guy a vacation day, then cancel it and tell him, hey, you have to come in this day. That's not right. And I have a policy that protects me from that not being right. I'm just asking for
May I, thank you. May I address that question, Council, Carter? That's a great question, and I think be happy to have the council consider that, among yourselves, what is the appropriate remedy here? We're not denying that the fire chief has the right to control the schedules of the personnel in the department. The fire chief also has the right to fire people, has the right to demote people. He cannot do that for an improper reason. You cannot do that to retaliate against them for endorsing a candidate. You cannot do that to retaliate against them for having a vote of no confidence. We want the city council, at a minimum, to acknowledge the way the department treated Tim was wrong, give him an apology. If you don't want to give him any money, great. He's not entitled to any money. He's entitled to an apology. He's entitled to acknowledgement that he was wrong. If that's helpful at all.
Just one last question I wanted to ask. You said you lost a day's vacation in there just because it was in the middle. According to my notes, that the phone call only took 30 minutes. And so you came in at 8:30 for the call, had 30 minutes, and then It was at station number 1, the call, they accommodated moving it out here, and
I'm scheduled for the day. I don't live on the corner from Laverne, I live an hour away. So in the middle of my vacation, like Mr. Mason explained, I had to come in. So at that point, I'm not on vacation anymore. So now I have to prepare to come into work, drive in. Luckily, my instructor, the class was supposed to be in Brea that morning, accommodated me, knowing that I was in this call review as well as other people, and he moved the class to Brackett. So he made accommodations for me and the members that were in that call review. He did that on his own part.
so the 3-day training was not, or 2-day, was it 2 or 3-day training?
3 days.
3 days. It wasn't at Brackett the full time. It was over in Brea, 2 of them, and he accommodated 1 day over in Brackett Airport.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Well, really, I think what we're talking about here is basically, it has to do with forced hire and emergency recall. That's it. Basically, you had a day off, you scheduled it, there was a mistake. Mr. Thompson tried to correct the mistake, you talked to Ryan, Battalion Chief Ryan. So really, what we're talking about is you just want acknowledgement that, from the council, that yes, in fact, you did get a forced hire on a non-emergency call. We're not talking about any compensation, you've already been compensated, you've already been paid, you were able to complete your class, which is good. So really, it's just, as a council to say, okay, our fire chief misused the forced hire and emergency recall for basically a review. That's it.
Can I just find one thing on that? So this, they state it was a mistake. So from the time I got approved, or got told about this call review, it took them 6 days to tell me that it was a mistake. After the fact, my battalion chief told me that he was the first one to find out about the mistake, and he went straight to the fire chief. So at that point, we're all human. Why couldn't they just call me and say, hey, Tim, hey, we made a mistake. I see we approved your vacation. Hey, this call review's in the morning. Are you available? I mean, we're all human. Somebody could have called me instead of just canceling my vacation.
And Captain, my foot did make the adjustment to Brackett Field instead of Brea, so you were able to complete your class.
The helicopter operation, the flying time was always in Laverne at Brackett, but we're supposed to meet at Brea to finish part of our didactic or classroom phase before we move back to the field.
So in here, it did look like, I mean, I think we got the sequence of events down, that the schedule was set for April 24. Then you requested vacation and one of the battalion chiefs.
I had my vacation.
I understand that you got told after you requested vacation, but my understanding is from the material that the schedule had been made but just hadn't been published yet. Because they had been working on dates. They had identified the morning of the 24th. They had that, then you requested vacation, and the ball was dropped. The mistake was made. It looked to me like they also tried to make a change in the schedule to May 7th, but the doctor wasn't available at that time. And because we're talking about the schedules of multiple people, not just yourself.
But I like to point out.
I had thought that they'd already apologized that they made the mistake. In the documents that were written by Andrew Glaze, it talked in there where BC Ryan apologized. And so,
My battalion chief apologized to me that the fire chief put me in this position. Correct.
Right.
Difference.
If I may, Councilman, an apology from Battalion Chief Ryan is not sufficient. We'd like one from whoever is the final decision maker for the city of Laverne. At this point, that is this body. So we are asking this body, as Councilmember Hepburn said, take responsibility, lead the city, hold your head up and apologize.
Well, I have an email here. We have all the emails and texts that went back and forth. I have one here that was dated April 3rd, 3 weeks before the April 20, and it says your vacation for April 24th was approved in error. For clarification, you may take vacation on the 24th. However, you are still required to attend the mandatory call review schedule in the morning at 8:20 hours. I will be glad to speak with your instructor about the class. He was willing to talk to the instructor to, ask that you could show up a little bit late, that, you needed to be at the call. So it's actually 3 weeks prior that you were notified that you couldn't take the vacation.
Does it matter?
And that was,
Can you clarify? I'm just trying to understand what your point was.
my point is you said you were only notified a couple days prior to it, a week before you did, but this is actually 3 weeks prior that you were notified that your vacation, that it was done in error, that you would need to be at the call.
I stated that Chief Jankowski denied my grievance the night before the call review. I was notified.
You were notified?
I was
Okay,
in the
okay.
process.
You're talking about the grievance, actually, for your
Correct,
response?
yeah, I was in that whole time period from what that date was, I was in the appeal process.
Can I address that? Councilman, yes, that's correct. And there is a very formal process, which is why you see me here. There's a formal process when these guys have issues that come under the heading of things that are addressed in the MOU. And they are required, if they disagree with a particular decision, they are required to go through that process. And that process means you speak to your supervisor, you grieve it at the first level, you grieve it at the second level, and then you grieve it here. So Tim started the process of protesting this immediately. And part of the problem was that when the grievance made it to the fire chief just sat on it, took no action at all until the night before. And he refused to come in. Does that help? I mean, this is
I understand
unlike
what
the
you're
private
saying.
sector in that.
And of course, we're hearing your side, so, and that part.
Of course.
Where's the chief?
So, you're saying,
Of course
the
they
police
are.
chief did this or that, that's accusations, the fire chief, those are accusations, I don't know what for proof, is what I'm saying.
Do you have his response
To the grievance? Yeah, if anybody else wants to go on, I'll look for it.
I have down in our staff report that you had requested time off on the 23rd and 24th, which is only 2 days. Is that correct or not correct?
I requested 2 days on this.
Okay, so your council said 3 days, but in reality, it's 2 days. Is that correct?
Correct,
Okay.
I requested the 23rd.
And that the time for the meeting was at 8 o'clock.
We did it was at 8:20.
I saw both dates, so 8 o'clock and 8:20. And that the time that you were at the station, you were paid for, and the time that was allotted vacation-wise was given back to you. Are those correct also?
That's not the point.
So you haven't, I mean, you were paid for when you came in, and you were given the vacation back for when it did. And then you went and did your class. Congratulations on passing it, by the way. So that class is completed, your vacation is intact, and your pay is intact. Correct?
Yeah, we said that about.
Mr. Mayor,
Well, your
I
ethics
think
are not.
at this point, we've had a good back and forth discussion. I've just asked if either of you guys have any closing remarks, and then perhaps the council can decide this matter.
Sure, unless there are any other questions? I think the only closing comment I would make is that it may be in the mind of Tim, my clients, myself, I think many people in the audience, that it would appear based on some of the council's questions, that the council may be, at least in our view, slightly misunderstanding the importance and the nature of vacation. The fact that a person is paid the time that he was compelled to come in to work during his vacation does not mean that he is not deprived of the vacation. There still is a colorable, actionable wrong to Tim on those facts. And I would submit that it's great that he was paid for the time, It's great that he got the 2 hours credit back on his vacation, but that does not redress the injury that was done to him. And we are asking the council to recognize that we're sorry. All we're asking for.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Would you clap?
Some final comments?
Make a motion. Memo.
It's on the agenda, right? Aren't public allowed to ask something?
Do you have a speaker card? You want to speak on this? Come up.
I was just bypassing that little part of the information is interesting, but I'm sitting here listening to this, and I did read the memos going back and forth. By the way, Rick Owen, Eagle Drive, Laverne, California. I hear you guys talking about an hour here and 30 minutes here, and you only miss here. I believe Robin just went to Poland 2 or 3 weeks ago. Be interesting if in the middle of her vacation they said, "Why wait? We only need you back for 30 minutes. Could you come back and be here just for 30 minutes? And we'll be happy to pay your vacation time." So either I'm stupid, which maybe, or I'm totally missing the point. How long are we going to put up with this chief doing these kind of retaliatory actions to every firefighter we have, and you guys are not gonna do a damn thing about it?
Anybody else? Yes, sir. If you speak and then fill out a blue card, please.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
My name's Hugh Kelly, at 7235 Monterey Street. I'm sorry, I got a little perspective on this. 30 years I was an air traffic controller. Of that time, I was a union man most of the time. I was a union representative for our tower for 7 years. I was a manager of an air traffic control tower for 5. So I got an idea of all the perspectives here. You don't respect your employees. I'm sorry. That's all you got to say.
Amen.
I'm not. Just, I'm sorry. I never had a grievance like this before. Either side, as a manager or as a union rep. Just listen to your employees. Respect them.
Okay, Tim, you said you wanted to do a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. I mean, we've talked enough about this. I just think it's a fact that our fire chief just made a big error on his vacation schedule. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I'd just like to make a motion that we just acknowledge that the fire chief misused his force hire for a vacation day and against Tim Marino, firefighter Tim Marino. We just acknowledge that as a council and just say, okay, we made a mistake. As you said, we made a mistake, and I think we need to just say, okay, there's nothing else to do but just say that we made a mistake. The fire chief made a mistake and he did not use his force hire correctly. It was not an emergency call, it was a review. So, that's what I'd like to make a motion.
I second it.
Is there a second?
Because,
Wow.
can we discuss it?
Let's go ahead and discuss.
Because I still feel it's assumption. I have my report, but I do not.
Need a second.
From what my report is, it does not show that staff did anything wrong.
Oh, what?
I'm going off what I read. I am not going to say that our police chief, our fire chief has done anything wrong when
Ever.
I don't see it. If people speak of it, I mean, would you want someone to speak bad of you and nobody defend you? Or
Oh.
I won't do that to, and you talked about support, you know, support staff, that's what I'm doing. I'm standing up for a fire chief. So that's what I'm doing. Until I have a chance to have more information. I have questions I wrote down, and, but I'm not ready to vote on something like that.
Yeah,
There you have it,
been
folks.
crap about 3 meetings. You're only
Yep.
If those of you who are unhappy and are voicing opinions, we have procedures for that. We've had time for that.
Recall.
So if you have that option.
We will.
Good.
Soon.
Robin,
Nobody will give a second? None of you?
I understand. I think the issue is here. There's a lot of information here, and obviously, the fire chief utilized what he thought he wanted to do to change a rule that's in place in the MOU. Forced hire is for emergency situations only, whether it be wildland fires, whether it be emergency calls or fires in the community, or any earthquakes. I mean, on the face of this, it's not a big deal, but when you change the rules to match what you want to do, you can't do that. You have to stand by your MOU. A forced hire is a forced hire. The person had a vacation day, that's over. That was all taken care of. He was able to complete his class. But you can't misuse forced hire. That's only for emergency uses only. Even if it states for a class, it was a class. And the minutia as far as between when he applied for it and set for the review for the accident on Wheeler, that's the only thing I'm saying. I just think the fire chief did wrong on that one. He misused his use of force hire. That's all. I mean, it's just, he misused it. It should have been for emergency purposes only.
Any other comments?
No, we move on.
Is there a motion? A motion to approve staff's report?
What's that? Is it tonight?
Do we have to decide tonight, or can I get more answers over tonight?
Oh, tonight.
What's the answer?
Do you have another method, Robin?
Well,
I mean, seriously.
yeah, seriously, I mean, I would like a chance to, such as the report that the gentleman talked about, I'd like to see that report, because I'm going off the MOU, that's all I have in front of me, is the MOU that states, what vacation time is. And that the management has the right to, decide what's best for the organization. And we're also forgetting that this accident took place a year prior, and they needed, according to the records here, that they needed all the firefighters that were involved in that accident because they had concerns about how the accident was handled. So they called them in, they wanted this call, and so they had to be there. And so to me, from what I'm reading, the fire chief, first it started off with their supervisor. We keep saying the fire chief, but he had a supervisor that said that you need to, the email show us, that he said that you need to be in here for this call. It won't take over that time. I'm willing to work with you and let them know that you'll be a little late, and it goes through the whole thing. We tried working with them. So what I read here, what I'm presented, is that it looks like we did everything we could to accommodate and work with him. He gave back his vacation time, gave back his, he paid him for the hours that he took off. And
It's the principle.
And
Please.
so I would like to see the policies talking about, if you could get that for me. And, you're asking for something that is not monetary. I don't see why I can't wait to the next meeting and let me see all the documentation. If you want my vote on this and my decision, you have 4 others. The 4 of you could decide. I'm just saying, I just would like more documentation. You brought up some interesting facts that I'd like to look into too.
You know,
Would you like to make that motion? Or Muir?
Well, I guess the point I was gonna make is I saw this as an error between the supervisor and the firefighter. I saw the fire chief standing up for the supervisor, and I saw the city manager standing up for the fire chief, and we're here to decide whether to accept or deny this grievance. And if we deny it, we're supporting the city manager, the firefighter, or the fire chief, and the battalion chief.
Right.
I
Yep,
understand,
exactly.
but I'm not at that point.
Okay.
I can't. But you have enough people, if you wanna do that, I just would like more information.
Do you wanna make that motion to?
I would, I'd like to make a motion to bring this back in the next meeting, but also give me the documentation, get all the council the documentation that, we were presented to ask for tonight, such as what he had said that there's a report. Like, I'd like for us to write down our questions and, talk to the chief about it.
Talk to Dr.
So
Henderson.
I'd like some, communication there. So I would motion for the next
More
meeting.
appropriate to be to me, I have already opined on this grievance, so I've
Okay.
vetted out all of what I think are the relevant policies the council needs more, I'll certainly make those available, but otherwise, any questions for me to answer.
So does that require a motion or not?
I'll second Robin's motion to basically take a further deep dive into the forced hire policies and the questions and things and direct them.
So what you're suggesting is we postpone this to the next meeting?
Yes, and I think that's beneficial to everyone concerned, all employees, firefighters. I feel this lets us really dive into it so we understand what is, has been, is being done from his perspective and from the other side that I'm reading here. So it would just give us further information, and it's not going to hurt waiting 2 weeks. We can get more information and make a, more rational decision.
Just read the lawsuit.
Ask him the question. He said he has the answers. Ask him the question.
We're not dealing with that right now. We're dealing with a motion to postpone this for 2 weeks.
For a year.
We have a motion and a second.
Okay, vote please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item B. Request from Laverne resident Anna Anderson on council meeting videotaping.